Good morning, internets. A little bit of a vlog here. This morning, as I sat on my deck listening to the rain, drinking my morning coffee, having a bowl of cereal, I think to myself how many blessings I've received in the last, couple of years per se. How lucky, if you want to say, I've been to go through to experience some of the things that I've experienced in my life, or even in just the last few years, and still be able to be here now to film this here vlog. Yesterday was the first time in many months that I had a jug of milk in my house. And it was even longer before that I even had cereal for breakfast. So it's kind of nice, to have the ability, or the little extra this time around, to pick those things up. I remember when I was a kid, not so much my childhood, but from about the age of 12 onwards, things changed, and I remember having to grow up, do mechanic work on my mom's car, like changing starters, changing alternators, changing flat tires, troubleshooting other things for my mom, because my dad was not well enough to do those things, and mom couldn't do it, and didn't have the extra to go to a automotive shop to pay those things done. So I remember riding my bike in the rain to the parts store to pick up the starter or to pick up the alternator, and then finding that it doesn't fit because the car was a mid-year change, so I needed the other part number, and then having to ride all the way back, and then laying on the ground, hooking up the starter and all that. And then when we were forced to move, and Dad was in the hospital with his big surgery, we were basically living out of our car with an occasional use of the bathroom facilities in the hospital to bathe in the sink and use the toilet, kind of a thing. We used to go around to fast food places and eat the crackers and the ketchup and the mustard, and if we were lucky, we'd find a few quarters or change on the ground, and we were able to buy, some deli meat or something like that for food, living off of, Mr. Noodles, or those cheap, it wouldn't even have been brand name noodles, it would have been the cheap ones at that time, and finding out where the grocery store was that had carts that took a quarter to use the cart, and then returning the cart and getting a whole quarter to put toward a loaf of bread or things like that. Growing up in situations where you're living with somebody, you haven't left home yet, you're too young to leave home, and that person is very unstable to the point where you feel that you have to hoard food, because if you don't hoard up food, then they throw it all away because the food's not healthy for them to eat. Well, the food wasn't meant for them to eat, because they never eat that food anyway. That food was our food that we had bought with our own money, and then having to do without, standing in food bank lineups, and then getting told that just as you're like the second one or the first one up at the lineup, the counter, being told that you're out of food, you got no food. So then what do you do, right? And yeah, of course, get a job, start working, make money. Well, when there are other situations at hand where getting a job doesn't quite fit, having to look after your dad as he is virtually before his surgery here, as he was basically dying, and then after the surgery when he was recovering, but he was far too weak to do much of anything besides just sit there. And my mom did the best she could, but even the strongest of person, breaks after a while. So I stepped up and started doing the best that I could, and I never ever thought that I would have the opportunity to have owned my own house, have had the opportunity to have owned new vehicles. And even when everything fell apart with my marriage, with the house, with the vehicles, with the job, the whole WCB thing, it was rough, it was tough, but you still had blessings if you were willing to enjoy them. And I'm not talking about somebody walking up and handing you $1,000 or a bag of food or whatever. I'm meaning getting out and enjoying nature, getting out and enjoying the free things of life, the simpler things of life, the things in life that are here for us to enjoy without having to overextend ourselves to enjoy them. It's so nice to have a little bit of groceries in the cupboard for the first time in a while. That was one of my biggest fears and anxiety is running out of food. And that is part of the reason why I struggle and still struggle today with food, is I'm afraid that if it's sitting there in the cupboard, it's going to disappear. It's going to be took away. So they can't take away something that they can't find. They can't take away food if you've already eaten it. So you eat all the food and then they can't take it, Then what do you do for the other 3 weeks out of the month, right? And over the last little while, as I was out or running very low or out, I tried my best to cope, to realize that I'm not starving by chance or by force. I'm doing this by choice. I am trying to realize I don't need to buy multiples of things just so I have extra because it may not be there. Realizing that it's just me now. I don't have to worry about things disappearing, or I don't have to worry about somebody taking all the food, and realizing that this apartment that I have is a blessing in itself. Considering what I've been through the last little while, I was definitely blessed to get this apartment. Credit checks, background checks, all those kind of checks that they do to see if you're the kind of person they want in their buildings, and keeping a clean criminal record all these years, even through some of these rough times, helps with all of this. And filing the right paperwork, talking to the right people, and learning how to work with people that really are part of the system but aren't really there in your best interests. It is a little bit stressful at times, a little bit tough at times, but if you pull back from the chaos and confusion, you can see clearly what is in front of you. When a person has everything they need to survive, a bed, running water, a toilet, electricity, a dry place to sleep, you know, food in your cupboard or in the fridge or in your belly. Really, what more does a person need in life? What more does a person need to make them happy? Many people, they surround themselves with expensive, beautiful things. I myself was one of those people for many years, forking out, you know, hand over fist of money to keep a lifestyle going that really wasn't sustainable, and really, truthfully, deep down was not in the idea or best interest that I had in mind for my long-term life. I do miss certain aspects of my old life. However, at the same time, eventually everything comes to an end. Eventually you have to move on. Eventually you have to regroup, recoup, recover, and you know, keep on going. Realizing what's important in life, putting you know, kind of you as first. I know it sounds selfish to put yourself first, but if you're a disaster, if you're a mess, if you're wrecked, then really, are you much of any value to anybody else? So you have to take care of yourself, your own mental, physical well-being, before you can even think of being a part of anyone else's life. And part of that journey is being thankful for what you have, and just being there if somebody from your past calls you and needs an ear to talk to. You know, like I said, receiving blessings is nice. Having stuff is nice, and having everything that you need to comfortably live, as long as you're willing to, well, comfortably live in the environment you're living in. Just a few little thoughts that I had floating around my head that I thought that I would throw on the camera here. Thanks for watching this here video. Comment, subscribe, and enjoy.